Hello, 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 welcome back to Hunter Tune. Today we are actually working on my purple EG Civic. So we have done a lot of work in the last couple of days of just kind of getting this car ready to start and doing the wiring, and we had to customize the radiator for the backdoor intercooler that we're running. So we had to move the radiator over to the right a little and forward because of the way the wastegate is positioned on this manifold. I didn't really want to cut this manifold up in order to fit this radiator. So we did get all that done. We got all our hoses attached. I had to find the lower radiator hose, which is laying around somewhere. And I got all that done. We have the clutch bled, the new slave cylinder, new clutch line on it. I have starter installed, wiring harness installed. We have the Snake Eater 1500s. These are the Snake Eater Performance 1500 cc injectors that we're going to run. It was a lot easier to install these injectors because it already utilized the factory OBD1 Honda clip, so that was nice. We did have to space the rail up a little bit because these injectors are quite tall. I mean, honestly, this thing's almost ready to fire up. I have some other small things that we have done to it throughout the day. We had to make a custom throttle bracket here. I'm honestly just doing a lot of this stuff to get this car up and running, and then we will slowly kind of nitpick small things and make it look good and stuff like that, like paint the valve cover, because this valve cover is just going to be a temporary one because I'm actually getting the other valve cover that I have. I'm going to paint that one wrinkled black once I have the catch can fittings welded on, but I don't want to paint it before I get those welded on, so I'm going to do that. Like I said, we're just kind of making sure this motor is going to run and go from there, I suppose. I have the oil feed line hooked up. We ran the wiring, or not the wiring, we ran the oil feed line and attached it to the cylinder head on the inside of the timing belt there. It's always a cool little neat feature I like doing on these things. We have all the valves lashed because this cylinder head was completely gone through. It has Ferrera valve springs and retainers in it and Type R cams. So we had to re-lash all the valves, intake and exhaust. We just went to 7 on the intake, 9 on the exhaust. That's what I usually do, and don't have issues. But yeah, nonetheless, we have pretty much everything ready to go, guys. This car was a little bit of a mess to get wired up. They didn't have a lot of the stuff for the fuse box. Obviously, there's nothing in the engine bay. There's no battery, no nothing. So all the wiring harness for this car goes through the firewall and then into here. I'm going to have to get a glove box for the car so you can actually see, or you don't have to see all this wiring that's sitting in here. A lot of this is just like the factory part of the cabin harness that's just not utilized anymore. And then we have our ECU plug-in right here. And then there's just a lot of this random stuff here. These are like the stock check engine data port right here, and some other things. But you can see here, this is where the engine harness actually attaches inside the car, so it's, you know, kind of wire tucked or whatever. And then we have extended wiring here for the fuse box, which actually sits up here in the airbag compartment. So when we put the airbag lid back on, you can't see it. So that's a cool little feature. But there was some wrong hardware and missing fuses on the fuse box when I got it, so I had to fix that. We got the shifter installed with the bitch pin. I have an oil pressure gauge just kind of temporary mounted in here for now. There's no light going to it or anything like that. And then this car already had a boost gauge and wideband in it. So the wideband just comes out to this guy right here, which we'll send through the engine bay and then send up to our O2 sensor on the downpipe. And then we also have to get the fuel pump done, which shouldn't be too big of a deal. We just have to attach our new Walbro 525 to this hanger, which is a full-blown dual pump hanger, but we are just blocking off one of the ports to run a single pump, just because trying to fit the 2 pumps on the full-blown hanger in the stock tank is definitely a pain in the ass. So I'm just going to attach the Walbro 525 to the existing setup there, and then this car has dash 8 feed up and then dash 6 coming back. Yeah, and then we're just charging the battery right now. A lot of this stuff has to get gone through on this car, guys. Like the battery ground is really sketchy. There's like just some of the wiring and cleanup really needs to get done on this car, and obviously none of the interior is in it right now other than the dash. But I do nonetheless have all the interior sitting over here. I'm getting new seats, and then all the panels and shifter boots and all that kind of stuff is all sitting over here as well. The carpet for this car was shot, so I ripped that completely out, and I'll probably leave it out for the time being because this car will be getting a cage at some point. I don't know when, but I will be putting a cage in it very soon. Oh, we had to modify the wiring harness too. So this is the harness that came with this car. It was pretty sketchy. So I actually just got an uncut Z6 harness that I had laying around. And the only thing that we did to the harness actually to make it work with this car is I'm actually running an OBD2 alternator, the one from my EK. And I had to just get an OBD2 alternator plug and then wire it onto the OBD1 harness. There's just 2 wires on the alternator plug, the 4-wire plug that plugs in, that are different between the OBD1 and OBD2. You guys can just Google it. It's pretty simple to just wire that new plug onto it.
Yeah, so black and yellow goes to black and yellow, white and blue goes to white and blue, white and red goes to the blue, and then white and green goes to white and yellow.
Yeah, so it's just 2 wires that are different. We also got brand new O'Reilly's axles in this thing, I think I was telling you guys about, and we're probably just gonna run this down pipe for now, or up pipe, whatever. This is the one that I had on my red EK, but it's not going to work with the hood for this car, so we actually got a new piece of pipe. It's a mandrel 45 inch bend that we're gonna try to make work with that hood. So, and then maybe get a custom plate for around the pipe as well once we get it all situated. We got brand new NGK part number 4554 spark plugs in it. And I'm running just the catch can lines off the back of the block for now to this catch can over here. Eric Orange Built on Instagram, go check him out. He's made me a bunch of different catch cans in the past, and they're always great. So yeah, not much left to do, guys, other than throw the fuel pump in this thing, plug the Honda into it, and we will go get some gas because the tank is completely empty as well. So we'll go get some E85, throw this new Walbro 525 pump in it. I apologize, the shop is getting a little dirty. We've been working on a lot of stuff lately, so the bench is kind of cluttered right now. But anywho, this is the Walbro 525 that I picked up for this car quite a while ago, and I'm just going to install it onto that hanger like I was telling you guys. So pretty much what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hook up the screen that they give you with this thing.
There's the camera. Let me see that son of a bitch.
Alright, so this is the little sock that they give you. We're just going to push it onto the pump. And then they also give you the piece of hose. So we're going to take this, shove it on the top of the pump. This stuff's all pretty self-explanatory, guys, pretty easy, but I figured I'd show you.
Sometimes you gotta spit on it.
Don't spit on it, it's flu season. Alrighty guys, so we are working on a 2500 pickup truck today that we have on the dyno, and I am just going over some stuff on the HP tuner for it. It does have a sloppy stage 2 camshaft and some valve train installed into it. The truck came in running pretty good. The guys actually street tuned it a little bit themselves, but we are trying to make some improvements nonetheless. So this is the initial pull that came in with this truck. So you guys can see that it has a bunch of waves in the power curve here, and that's mainly from the truck just not having enough fuel down in the lower RPM range. And this is a plow truck, so we're really trying to maximize that area of the graph in order to get this thing to be able to plow snow good, because it's going to live a lot of its life below $3,000. This cam and stuff that's in here is a little bit more of a high RPM cam, but we're going to do everything we can to be able to get everything sorted out as best as we can. But this is a totally stock exhaust system on this truck, totally stock airbox, no mods other than the camshaft. So he is leaving a lot of horsepower on the table. I would say 60-ish horsepower probably, with a set of nice headers, and getting rid of the catalytic converters and getting a nice high flow muffler on this thing. But we already did make some changes here, and you guys can see we did make a little bit more torque and a little bit more power here, and we have a smoother power curve. So if you guys can see, the green is after some adjustments, and you can see how much smoother this is in this area here. This is just from a fuel change to get rid of this wavy lean spot coming into the first part of the power band. But we're going to continue messing with it, do a couple more pulls on this thing, and we'll catch up with you in a minute.
You do one of those like on the like log rolling challenge.
Alrighty guys, so we just got done tuning that 2500 HD pickup truck with the cam and valve springs. It turned out pretty good. It sounds great. The exhaust is definitely choked up, and his real intention with that truck is for snow plowing, which that camshaft isn't really designed for big punch down low. I mean, as you guys can see here, just let me see just the blue one.
Just this one?
Just the blue one, yeah. So as you guys can see, below 3 grand, I mean, it does make some pretty good torque, but it doesn't peak torque until like 4,500. So yeah, peak torque was 4465, and this thing was definitely nosing over on horsepower quite early. Like 5,300, it was just like a nosedive, starting to die off, just because, you know, it is a little bit of a backed up system. An engine is an air pump, as Brent always says. And if you can't get the air in, you can't get it out, you're not going to continue making horsepower. So that is the goal. Got to get the air in, and you got to get it out, more importantly. We did pick up 10 horsepower by cleaning the air filter.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool. We did that.
Now Christian's got a rash.
Yeah, now Christian has a rash on his hand because it was all full of mouse poop.
Yeah, I'm allergic to like mice.
Yeah.
So, and I didn't even think about it. I was like, oh, just blow it out. And yeah, now I'm fucked.
Oh well, but we did have some fun on that thing today, and we did some pulls, made some cleanup, did some adjustment, and quite happy with the results.
Yeah.
And it's really cool to have guys coming all the way from, you know, we're in Wisconsin, they came from Minnesota. They left their house at like 4:45 a.m. and showed up here at like 10 o'clock. So it definitely is cool that people are supporting Hunter Tuned, and yeah, it's just a dream come true, guys, to be able to do this. It's fun. I really enjoy dyno tuning. So
I enjoy hanging out and talking to people. Like I like talking to the customers. Like Hunter will go do his thing, and I'll be like, okay, like, what are you doing with this thing? What are your goals? What do you want? I'm
actually, like, believe it or not, guys, like, I'm pretty cool on camera and stuff like that. But when I'm like with customers and stuff, sometimes I'm quiet and I don't really talk because I'm just in the zone. Right. Like, I'm trying to focus. I don't like getting distracted. You know? Right. And I'm like, oh, fuck it. Yeah. Yep. So another thing that we did do and we did pick up, and I wanted to give a huge plug to, is Low Dollar Motorsports actually sent in some sensors for us to use on the dyno, because if you guys know, we did hook up the wideband to the dyno, so we have an air fuel that we can monitor as we're doing pulls and stuff like that, but we did not have a pressure sensor in order to read manifold vacuum or boost pressure on turbo cars. So Low Dollar Motorsports actually sent in this 4-bar sensor. So I believe this is it can read vacuum and up to, I forget, 45 pounds of boost. So we just are going to wire this guy in. We got a little barb fitting that we're just going to attach like vacuum line to, and then have a spool of vacuum line sitting over here that we can wheel out to the car to you know, test that stuff and make it happy and make it work. And he also sent in an extra 0 to 100 psi sensor that I'm actually going to be wiring into the Mustang, so we can log fuel pressure, because I've never been able to log fuel pressure on the car because I just have the basic gauge on the car. I just have a gauge hooked up into the regulator there that I can check to set base pressure. But it would be nice in order to be able to read fuel pressure going down the track or on the dyno to make sure that we're not running out of fuel pressure and our fuel pumps are still keeping up with flow. Because that is one huge reason why guys run out of fuel so fast, is a lot of times the pumps just can't keep up. And guys always ask how I make big power on decapped injectors or junk smaller injectors, and it's just, you got to have a good pump with the setup, and you got to be able to maintain that fuel pressure all the way through the pull. So, all right, guys, today we are working on a EG Coupe with a H22 Turbo build on it, and this came in for some tuning and some checkups on it. We had to go through this car quite a bit before strapping it down. I should have filmed some of it, but I didn't. Imagine that. What's new? So we had to run through this thing to make sure everything was good. It came in running very rich, and just didn't run how it should. So we got a lot of the stuff sorted out. This car has precision 1000cc injectors. So they said it had the precision injectors, so I figured I would ohm them to make sure that they were high impedance or low impedance. And they turned out to be low impedance injectors, which means that we had to install this resistor box here off of like a EF chassis. So we got the resistor box installed, and then the car was still kind of running weird. Couldn't really figure it out. We did a compression test on it. The compression test passed with, perfect. So it wasn't that. And we just kept digging. We checked the timing, and it turned out to be that this eBay fuel pressure regulator was actually set super rich at like 80 psi, and I could not get the car to tune out with the pressure that high. These injectors must be just unstable at high pressure. So I backed it down to factory spec, which is around 40 psi, and now we got the car up and running properly. So yeah, now we're just going to run through the tune finally and just see what we can come up with and do some pulls on this thing. It is just an eBay kit, it looks like, with a I don't know if this is just an eBay Turbo, eBay gate, no boost control, just a basic setup here, pump gas, thousands, and the Walbro 255 pump. So, do you have anything to tell everybody? Oh, and we also fixed a little coolant leak here. There was no hose clamps on the idle motor, so we got that all sorted out. And yeah, Christian just got done strapping the back.
She should be pretty good.
Hopefully it's good. This is a super clean car, man. EG Coupe, just like mine. By the way, mine runs. We just haven't filmed a whole lot. Just been busy. They don't even know that my car runs.
Yeah.
I always want to make sure that we get the tires aired up, because you don't want to get a lot of tire deformation on the roller, so it's best to make sure that your tires are pumped up to spec.
Right, go in here. Go there. Roll H22 EG. Yeah, it's over here. Sync up RPM. Alright, Hunter's just gonna get those tires pumped up. I'm gonna get her straight, get her rocking and rolling, see if we can make all the power.
Alright guys, so we've been working on this H22 EG Coupe for a little while, and the customers actually had went home. We did a couple dyno pulls on this thing and ran into a few more issues. Not really issues, but stuff that we're going to address to get this thing to make a little bit better power, a little safer power, etc., etc. So we were playing with this thing quite a bit, and we got the fuel sorted out. There was a lot of little things. It took a couple hours, honestly. We were messing with this thing for a while, just getting it ironed out. And I thought this car was on S300, or what I was told it was on S300, but it turns out that it's just a chipped ECU. So we are tuning it on Honda Tuning Suite, the HTS software. But the car definitely needs some love to make safe, good power. One thing that we are needing to address is this downpipe situation. This is a 2.5-inch piece of pipe that has a very severe angle coming out of the turbo here, and it leaks quite a bit of exhaust out of it as well. So we are going to plan on changing the downpipe here and possibly the log manifold that is on it as well, because this log manifold is a really kind of a shitty design. The way that this manifold is set up is the two center cylinders, 2 and 3, have direct flow into the turbo. 1 and 4, on the other hand, literally have a 90-degree bend straight off of the head, which needs to get through the turbo. So it does 90 here and then a 90 into the turbo as well. So that is another thing that we're going to have to try to address. Yeah, anyways, this video is all over the place. I've just been so busy. I wanted so much cool stuff that I can film, but at the same time, when I'm in the zone working on stuff, it's really hard for me to actually capture all this stuff. It's overwhelming. But yeah, so we did end up making 207 horsepower. This thing's only on like 4 or 5 pounds of boost. It's not on any boost at all. I have no timing in it because I'm nervous about it being on pump gas. I have no idea what fuel is even in it. I was told it's on premium pump gas, but it's, you know, their word versus mine kind of thing. So I'm just taking it easy with it. And I also think we might have a VTEC issue with this car because it was on a mission on this pull. This is the 207 horsepower pull. And it was on a mission and it was falling off at 7,000 RPM, like pretty severely. So I'm starting to think that maybe, and when I was doing the pull in the car, we actually didn't get any footage of it, but when I was doing the pull in the car, it definitely felt like it was starting to fight itself up top. So we had to, we probably do have to address some other stuff with it as well, you know, so. Could you hear VTEC crack?
Yeah, and then it sounded, so it cracked, and then it sounded like it was fighting itself.
Up top, yeah, which is a common, like maybe the screen is clogged on the solenoid, or the wiring, the pressure switch wiring is bad, or the pressure switch isn't wired at all, so we're definitely going to have to figure that out. My camera is going to die, guys. I'm super sorry. So I'm going to end the video here. Oh, yeah, wow. Thank you for watching, and we're going to get to more videos on this thing, especially now that we have the car for a little while, that we can actually work on it. We're going to take our time and get everything dialed in, and we'll film all of it. But today was pretty hectic. 2 dyno tunes in one day. Crazy. This is such a dream come true, guys.
Moving all day.
Yeah, we were moving all day. And then also, we did work on the purple car. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that. We did get the purple car up and running, but I do have a bad injector on it that Snake Eater is going to be replacing, and I think is because of my bad, where we actually crushed the injectors kind of tight into the manifold there, and I think I just kind of over tightened the injector on the one side and caused some issues. So we're gonna have to get that sorted out and addressed as well. But thanks for watching, guys. That's gonna be it for today. Have a great night and a better tomorrow.